folks, hello. Today we are looking at a very popular subreddit. It is called Petty Revenge, a place where we see people's attempts at getting back at those who have wronged us, and therein feeling a sense of justice. Anyway, first story. I was written up for abandoning post. To clarify my title, I am not in the military. This takes place when I was 20, working summer jobs while living with my parents to pay for college. I was already working full-time as a waiter at a very fun restaurant that I really enjoyed, but I wanted to make a little extra money. So I got a job as a host at another restaurant. Let's call it Sapphire Wednesdays. For those of you outside of the US, we have a restaurant out here called Ruby Tuesdays. So Sapphire Wednesdays is a very funny thing. I knew immediately that the place was mismanaged, mostly cued in by the manager having a beer at 2 p.m. on a Tuesday during my interview. But my responsibilities as a host were very easy. Seat customers, inform servers, sweep the floor near the front. I had already been working in restaurants since I was 16, so my training was over in about an hour. About a week after I was hired, sometime after lunch, but before dinner rush, there was a car accident in front of the store. A car was sideswiped by a semi-truck and run into a telephone pole on a busy suburban road. I told a server to call 911 and sprinted out and across the parking lot to check on the car. Thankfully, the woman in the car was shaken, but fine. The truck driver was out of his truck and on the phone with 911, and other drivers had stopped as well. A very nice moment of humanity from folks on their way home from work. I decided that everything was being handled as best as possible, so I went back into the restaurant. I walked back in to find the manager standing at the empty host stand in front of a nearly empty dining room asking, "Where did you go?" There was an accident. I went out to make sure everyone was okay. Manager asks, "Why did you feel the need to do that?" "I don't know, jackass, because I'm human?" After a brief back and forth, the manager says he has to write me up for abandoning post. I was too confused and angry to argue, so I told him that was fine. He then reminded me that one more write-up within my first month means I'd be fired. I went home and explained all this to my dad, who was laughing through his anger and suggested I quit and just focus on the other job. I decided he was right, but hatched a plan. Rather than quit, I showed up an hour late to my next shift that the same manager worked. This happened to be Friday night during dinner, and I was the only host scheduled. Okay, so you're like, yeah, no, I'm not going to quit. I'm going to make things very inconvenient for the manager. I'm not reading ahead because I just want to comment on the information I currently have, which is that kind of sucks because you're in a way proving your manager right that you are, not responsible. That's the crappy thing. But I mean, you're granting him like some kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. You know what I mean? You're making yourself look bad to make him feel bad. I feel like there might be a different way to do this. I don't know. But I don't know. Let's see what happens. This happened to be Friday night during dinner, and I was the only host scheduled. The manager was furious that he had to get out of the office and do actual work, so when I walked in, he saw me and immediately began berating me. I asked if I was going to get written up for this, to which he replied in front of a crowd of customers, I might add, "You bet your ass you're getting written up." "Oh no, I guess I'm fired then. See ya." I went home and drank whiskey and smoked a cigar with my dad on the back porch to celebrate. Damn. Yeah, so I think what's really going on here is you wanted to really inconvenience your manager and sure, he's in the office doing whatever it is they do, and he is able to become a host on your behalf. Like he'll be at the host stand, so it's not like, you're short staffing all the waiters and all that stuff. Yeah, interesting petty revenge. So the petty revenge here is that you showed up late to kind of make yourself look bad and force the manager to work. The only thing that doesn't make this excellent revenge to me, you are making yourself look bad as a sacrifice. You know what I mean? I don't know. Some people watching this right now are like, what the hell are you talking about? That's just how I feel, Surprise microphone. Yeah, that's right. It was hiding behind the water bottle. You ever have a night out on the town, maybe sip on a couple skinny margs, thinking you were taking it easy, but the next morning you wake up feeling like absolute garbage? The older I get, the less forgiving my body seems to be. Well, fear no more! As we talk about today's sponsor, Ziotics. Ziotics pre-alcohol probiotic is the world's first genetically engineered probiotic. It was invented by PhD scientists to tackle rough mornings after drinking. And here's how it works. When you drink, alcohol gets converted into a toxic byproduct in the gut. and it is this byproduct, not dehydration, that's to blame for your rough next day. Pre-alcohol produces an enzyme to break this byproduct down, okay? Break it down. Just remember to make pre-alcohol your first drink of the night, drink responsibly, and you will feel your best tomorrow. Look, friendo, holidays are rapidly approaching, and I want you to feel good the next day, okay? We are grown-ups, we have stuff to do! So click the link in the description to get 15% off your first order at checkout with free shipping, and plus, Ziotics offers a 100% money-back guarantee. If you are not satisfied for any reason, they will refund your money, no questions asked. So big thanks again to Ziotics for sponsoring this video. Now let's get back into it. Anyway, also before I continue, I do want to add, like, obviously he did the right thing by going out and checking on what the hell was going on with that, like, car accident place, you know? Like, that was the correct move. Because there's this thing called, like, the, what's it called? The bystander effect or whatever, where if something crazy happens, a lot of times people don't call 911. A lot of times people are just like watching and they assume because a lot of people are around, somebody's going to handle it. And like this host went out there and they cared enough to make sure everything was being taken care of. That's what's up, dude. That's cool. But like abandoning post is like, this is not the frickin' Navy, dude. This is Ruby Tuesdays. You know, the chef's job is to microwave a pre-frozen meal and put it on a plate. Correct me if I'm wrong, people who've worked at Ruby Tuesdays before, but my guess, that, you know, alleged, I don't want to get sued here for defamation of the character that is Ruby Tuesday. He's one man with a monocle. That only wakes up on Tuesdays. I got a write-up for breaking my arm at work. Can't go into too much details because it's still an ongoing thing, but yeah. Dude, what the frick, man? Dude, what even is that? How can you get it written up for breaking your arm? Dude, oh, hey! One time, the only time I ever broke a bone was at work. Story time. Never talked to y'all about this before, I don't think. Check this out. I used to work at a go-kart place. That's right. In a place called Celebration Station in Clearwater, Florida. That was my very first job ever. I worked my way up to be a go-kart guy. And when I say go-kart guy, I mean I'm the kid with the whistle on his neck, running around, having a really, really bad farmer's tan because I'm outside in Florida heat, and I'm ripping bracelets off of people, and I'm being like, no bumping, no swerving, no reckless driving, okay? I used to work at that place. And one time, I broke my toe. How did I break my toe? Okay, there was a go-kart, right? These go-karts go about 20 miles an hour, and they've got these front bumpers that are made of metal. And this metallic bumper hit the side rail, the guardrail that keeps the go-karts in from, you know, you got this thin piece of sheet metal that sort of has like this little barrier all the way around the go-kart track, and behind that sheet metal is all these tires to absorb the force of the go-karts bumping against the border. You get what I'm saying? So once upon a time, a go-kart hit the sheet metal so hard, it hit that barrier so hard that it tucked the sheet metal on top of the go-kart. Go-kart is this, sheet metal is this. Oh. Like that, okay? Sheet metal was resting on top of the go-kart's bumper. The way to fix that is we have a jack. We have a jack on some wheels, and so it looks like this. You walk up with a jack, and you put a little hook from the jack underneath, and you like that, right? So it lifts the sheet metal up a little bit. So we had the jack up, and I come along, and I tell the guy in the go-kart, take your foot off the brake, and I kick the go-kart back. So as we have it jacked up, the sheet metal is lifted up off the ground by about a foot, and with the jack that my friend Shaman is doing, I go up, I kick the go-kart out of the way, and as soon as the go-kart escapes, Shaman drops the jack, and this sheet metal, this thin metal with all this force, slams down on my toe, on my big toe, and it breaks my big toe. I went, ah! I did not know that my big toe was broken until I started walking. Dude, I was in such crazy, I was like, oh! And this was right before my first semester of college, my first quarter in college. I spent my first quarter in college in a boot, in one of those boots to heal a broken foot. So I was just hobbling around at orientation at college. Crazy story. I can't believe I never told that here. But with that said, like, I remember my general manager at the time being like, why'd you do that? You know, this is going to cost us money. Cause I got workers' comp. I had them pay for my medical bills or whatever, cause I had to get an x-ray and figure out what I needed and had to pay for the boot and all that stuff. Dude, it's crazy. First time I broke a bone on the job when I was 18 years old. And also, you know, dude, I was getting paid $7.25 an hour as like an 18-year-old kid running around. It's a really dangerous job, dude. If you see a go-kart guy at Celebration Station in Clearwater, Florida, you know, give him a high five or something. Tell him Daniel Thrasher says hello. okay? Because not an easy gig. It's a crazy gig. And also, you're a high school kid or whatever. You're full of like hormones and stuff. You're running after chasing cars. You're ripping wristbands off of people. You're giving them a warning, giving them a second warning. You're kicking them off the track. Dude, it's a crazy job for a teenager to have. Shout out to people of Celebration Station. Love that job, by the way. Love that job. Anyway, let's see here. I got a write-up for crying on the call center floor on 9/11/2001 while watching the news. What kind of absolute psychopath would write you up for having an emotional reaction to a national tragedy? That's insane. People are nuts, dude. People are robots out there. Some managers really have zero compassion. I can't believe they thought a write-up was the right response in that moment. Yikes. This comment here says, as a non-American, I have to ask, how do you Americans not laugh out loud when someone says, I'm gonna write you up? It just sounds so childish. It's like, do you guys have referrals when you were growing up in your school? We had referrals in my school. It's like, I'm gonna write you a referral, meaning like it was gonna go on your permanent record as a high school kid that you were bad once, I think I got one. I don't remember why. I think I was like throwing a note around in the back of class or something. I think I got one, but maybe that never happened. Maybe I was threatened by my gifted teacher of all people. He didn't have control over his classroom though. Yeah, that is kind of a silly, I'm gonna write you up. That's a manager being like, I'm telling on to who? Myself later, so I have enough reason to get you to leave. The response here says, we get shockingly few protections as workers, and one of the few we still have is unemployment, which pays out to workers who lose their job through no fault of their own. A write-up is the first step towards your employer firing you with cause, and that can make you ineligible for unemployment insurance. So there's that. Yeah, dude, what a great place to work, the US of A. Roommate burned my food, so I matched his energy. Years ago, I decided to go back to school for a career pivot. I had to keep expenses low, so I moved into a sort of shared student apartment in the basement of an old apartment building. We each had our own locked rooms along with a hallway, but had a shared kitchen/bathrooms. No one really socialized beyond reminders to e-transfer for the shared internet. One night I got home from classes and work around 10 p.m. and decided to make myself a frozen pizza. Pause! Oh, you know what I love? Oh my God, dude, anytime I read about food on here, I swear I just lock in. Those Red Baron pizza boats. You know what I'm talking about, dude? Yes, the French bread pizzas. Oh, these. Do you know these? I'm trying to open this in a new tab. These. God. Oh. Dude, these. Oh man, I'd smash these. Yo, a frozen pizza like this in particular. Put a little ranch on there, yo. If you don't do ranch dressing with your pizza, I don't want to talk to you. That's my pineapple. I need ranch dressing on a pizza. Anyway. Cash was tight, so it was a bit of a luxury food item for me. I popped it in the oven at like 375, set an alarm, and went back in my room to wait the 25-ish minutes recommended by the packaging. About halfway through the cook time, I heard the oven door open as it was old and always made a loud noise. I can hear that. I can hear that right now. A few seconds after, I heard one of the other students closing their bedroom door. I went to check the oven and saw that someone had put a big tray of chicken breasts in the oven too. I thought nothing of it and went back to my room until the timer was done. When I went there to pull out my pizza, it was mostly burnt. The effer had put his stuff in the oven and cranked it up to 425 degrees without telling me. Fine, put your stuff in the oven, but don't change the cook temperature without saying anything. To me, that is a huge dick move. Question, is it not sanitary? Would it be unsanitary to do that as well? I actually don't know. Like, I don't know, just having raw meat underneath your pizza. If it bubbles up and then touches the pizza, but then I guess it would burn off. The salmonella or whatever would burn off, wouldn't it? I don't know anything about cooking. I really don't. The pizza was just burnt enough to be terrible, but I still had to eat it. After fuming internally for a minute or two and having a minor existential crisis about how pitiful my life is, I went back to the kitchen area in a rage and cranked up the oven to 500 with his chicken still in there. After a bit, I heard the smoke alarm going off and shortly after, someone swearing. I stepped out into the darkened hallway and, in a slightly ominous tone, said, "Everything all good, bud?" He stammered something about being fine and was trying to scrape the charred chicken off the baking sheet. I went back into my room and ate the rest of my terrible pizza. I moved out not long after that. F your chicken. Dude, that's pretty ominous. Everything all good, bud? The top comment here says, you brought a pizza to a game of chicken. Yeah, I don't know. This revenge is interesting because I don't know enough about cooking. I really don't to know whether or not that would have gotten you ill. Maybe it would have, maybe it won't. That's the first thing I was worried about. But yeah, dude, the fact that he raised the temperature without telling you and it was going to affect your cook time, that's so annoying, dude. Yeah, so I guess that's pretty good revenge. It's pretty much eye for an eye right there. This reminds me of a place I worked where giant cinnamon rolls were one of our things. We had to kick an intoxicated woman out, and on her way out, she looked at the hostess and said, "F your cake, bitch." The hostess, 17 years old, totally deadpan, looked at her and said, "It's a cinnamon roll." F your cake, bitch has been a thing we say since that happened. Now I'm adding this. Dude, that's so good. It's a cinnamon roll. Dude, hell yeah, dude. There is nothing like the deadpan, like the I don't care about anything nature of a 17-year-old dude. That was me working at the go-kart track. I don't care who you are, you know? I don't care. We once had a famous baseball player. It was his kid's birthday party. I kicked him off after a ride because he was being an absolute nightmare, but it was his birthday. Ironically, I think $3.75 is a much better temp to cook chicken breasts at than $4.25. My man was going to have some dry-ass chicken either way. And then the op replied, they said, agreed. Also, that old oven ran weirdly hot. Weirdly enough, I had just come from work at a restaurant where I would have to pre-cook big trays of chicken breasts for other dishes. Oh, it sounds like a good way to bang out a bunch of chicken. Just put them all on a tray and just put them in the old oven-rooney. I really should meal prep more. Y'all meal prep ever? Huh? How do y'all do it? How do we feed ourselves 3 times a day? I think about that all the time. I'm like, I have no idea how I survived to this age. No clue. I can't believe I ate 2 things earlier today. It just it baffles me every time I blink and another day's gone by. I'm like, how did I eat anything? You yelled at me for not using the compost? Fine, I'll chew you out for being a creep in front of your wife. Pause. Loving this energy in the title. I'm loving the title's energy right now. I'm really a big fan of the energy that the title is bringing. You understand what I'm saying? There's the big energy of the title of the thing. I finally get to post something here. I'm still high on the adrenaline from this one. This happened like 10 minutes ago as I'm writing this. Context. I, 21 female, live with my mom and stepdad, mid-50s, at my stepdad's parents' place, mid-70s. My parents have lived here for 10 years now, and I used to visit a lot when I was a kid. I've lived here now for about a year after finally leaving my father's place. Stepdad's stepdad, Lee, is an absolute creep. Pause. I'm going to be real. I needed to draw out a family tree. Okay? We've got Op here, right? Op comes from mom and dad. Okay. So she no longer lives with dad. It's mom and stepdad. Stepdad also has a mom and a stepdad. So I think we're here. I think we're at Op's stepdad's place. Okay, that's where we're at right now. And this guy, his name is Lee. This is Lee, old man Lee. We're looking at Lee the creep, who is Op's mom's husband's mom's husband. Just in case you were confused, needed to draw it out because I did very badly. Stepdad Lee is an absolute creep. He's not subtle about it too. Everyone in the family knows, but I genuinely can't tell if his wife is oblivious to it or just doesn't care. 10 years ago, he tried getting me to spend time with him in his office by showing me animal videos and trying to get me into Diablo games. Thanks to my instincts around predatory men, thanks Dad, I did not go into that office again. My stepsisters all experienced him creeping on them too. Okay, stepdad has daughters, sis. Okay, these are 2 other people who are also creeped out by Lee. Okay, wait a minute, this kind of looks like a... blur it. They've made it clear he's not invited to their gatherings. He got scammed $30,000 from one of these fake email girlfriends. Who paid it off? His wife. He leaves his phone upright on the kitchen counter and gets Discord notifications from the Furry Hypnosis Discord server he's on. What do you mean, furry hypnosis? He only speaks to me or looks at me if I'm wearing shorts, makeup, or a skirt, or if I have a girlfriend over. Otherwise, complete radio silence. I had enough of it today. I'm in raging PMS mode right now. I can hardly stand being around my favorite people right now, so being around the people I hate? Definitely not easy. I usually try to let this rage out at the gym. Healthy coping mechanism, by the way. So I got in some shorts, and on my way out, I see this mother effer staring at me. I was so close to saying something, but I figured I should just let it go, get the adrenaline out, and then come home and eat and sleep. Done. After I came home, I finished my dinner and was just sitting at the table texting my friend, and he came to the table to monitor his insulin. I left the table. I wasn't just going to sit there and watch him, and for some reason that triggered something in him. Maybe he could sense I was in a crappy mood and took that personally, so I throw away my scraps in the garbage, and he comes up to me, gets in my face, and yells something along the lines of, "You know, food, like edible food, it goes in the compost." He aggressively opens the cabinet under the sink to the compost bin like a raging child. There, in there, and stomps away. As he's going away, I say, "Has that always been the case?" Bro, I'd been here on and off for 10 years. Instead of then saying I need to put food in the compost a single time, he waits for a moment to yell at me about it. He's hard of hearing, so he didn't hear me. Him staring at me earlier and then yelling at me was enough. I went over to the living room where he sat down by his wife, and the conversation went like this. Me: "Hey, has that always been the case? I'm supposed to only put food in the compost?" Them: "Yeah." Me: "I've been living here for about a year and I've never been told." His wife says, "I just didn't know you were doing that. This is a lie. There have been a multitude of times she'll be doing dishes at the sink next to the trash and I throw my food away." Me: "I've noticed a lot of times I won't find out I'm doing something wrong until there's this big angry outburst about it. If I'm doing something wrong, you need to tell me about it when I do it." Lee, the creep, says, "Every time I tell you, you take it wrong. This was very confusing as everything he told me to do to take care of the shared spaces, I've consistently done. He stopped telling me to do these things after I asked him if he washed his hands after peeing. He didn't." What? "And then he went and made dinner for him and his wife. I wish I was making this up." And this is when I chewed him out. Me: "Do you have any examples of me doing that? I've done everything you asked, and actually, if you need something from me, I want wife to tell me. You make me extremely uncomfortable. You only ever talk to me when I'm wearing a skirt. You stare at me when I'm wearing shorts. You only talk to me when I have my girlfriends over, and when I was a kid, you tried to get me to spend time with you in your office. Also, you leave your phone out on the kitchen counter. I'm not trying to read what's on there, but you leave your notifications on, and what's on there is extremely inappropriate." The wife then says, "I just didn't know you weren't using the compost." Lee has a moment where he can't talk, and oh my God, the look of defeat on his face was legendary. His face just went emotionless. He shrunk down so much and got all quiet after yelling and said, "How about I ignore you and you ignore me?" I gave him a thumbs up and went to my room. Edit. I should have mentioned that, yes, I am in the process of moving out. I'm not insane, LMAO. I'm not staying here. Okay. The top comment here is kind of clear of what the situation is. The wife's immediate pivot back to the compost is just the ultimate denial. It's wild that the family solution is to just manage the symptoms of his behavior instead of addressing the predator in the room. Guess what, folks? That is extremely common. It's not right, it's not good, it's only bad, but it is so common. When there's actively a predator in a family, everybody just goes, "Well, that's Uncle Bob." Hate that. Hate that. Because these situations get, families get destroyed. The first person to speak out is the one to destroy the family, right? Not the actual freaking predator their stuff is about. The reply here says, "I'd be worried it is less her being in denial and more her being complicit with his actions. Honestly, to keep making him uncomfortable, I would just tell my friends when he's staring, 'Yeah, that's my uncle I told you about. Him and his wife are the ones into furry hypnosis.'" Oh! So just like looping his wife into it? That's interesting. Making it part of her identity too? That's a surefire way to get her to be more rebellious against him, wouldn't you say? And make disgusted faces. Let his actions speak for himself and let his actions get lumped in with her to hopefully make her wake up. His wife willfully ignoring all the creepy perv stuff and just referring back to the dang compost. Good on you for confronting him. Yeah, that lady's in serious denial. Love how you shut him down, though. His face must have been priceless. Creeps hate being called out publicly. Dude, what a mess of a situation. Not a mess, but just like, what a gross thing you have to put up with. I'm glad you're getting out of there. I'm glad you're moving out. Good Lord. I'm curious to see how the scene played out in like real time. You know what I mean? I wish I could be a fly on the wall and watch that happen. Because seeing his face, watching somebody's identity melt away. But what sucks is that his wife doesn't care. His wife is the number one person to really make him feel a sense of consequence, I feel like, I feel like when you're in a marriage like this, your partner is the one to really make you feel have you face the consequences of your actions day in, day out, right? And the fact that she's not introducing anything to him is really disheartening. Whatever, dude. And the solution being like, all right, why don't we just ignore each other is like, where's the justice? But good on you for saying your piece and saying what you needed to say. And also, maybe be on suspicious lookout. He's trying to invite you into his office when he was a certain age. You know, if he tried it with you and your stepsisters, he's very likely succeeded with others. Maybe consider talking to the police about him. And then Op replied, thought about that, but in personal experience and knowing the experience of other women in my life, the police won't do crap, unfortunately. That's the saddest thing ever, the cops not doing crap. And that is so real, baby. It's really unfortunate because it feels like the only way cops will do anything is if something already happened, if something dangerous already occurred or is occurring. I really feel like there's got to be some kind of like intermediate thing between like civilians and the cops. I think there needs to be some kind of like group report system or whatever. Like, I don't know, man, freaking a Facebook group of vigilantes. I don't know. You know, maybe this is where motorcycle gangs come in, you guys. You know what I'm saying? Batman rides a motorcycle. Doesn't he? Next story. Taking out the trash. I can't stand my neighbor. He's just a terrible person. My neighbor on the opposite side, who I'm friends with, is getting some excavation work done in his yard. The crew dropped off their equipment Sunday night on our street. In front of the mean neighbor, they parked the truck and trailer carrying the backhoe. They were probably a good 15 feet back from his driveway, meaning he has plenty of room to get in and get out. A minor and temporary inconvenience for most people, not possessed by the spirit of Satan, but I knew he was going to get pissed about it. He hates anything being parked in front of his house, even though it's a public street. The excavation was a 2-day job, so they were noticeably finishing up this afternoon when mean neighbor put out his trash cans, tomorrow's trash day. He put them so close to the front of the worker's truck that they will have to reverse the trailer in order to pull away from the curb and not hit the cans. He then got in his car and backed out of his driveway. He saw the workers and couldn't resist the compulsion to roll down his window and bark at them about, "When are you going to move that big ugly thing from in front of my house?" A worker patiently responded, "We're finishing up now, sir." Mean neighbor drove off. I quickly walked outside and went over to the worker. I said, "You know, as close as those trash cans are to your truck, I don't think the trash truck will be able to reach them, and they'll probably skip his collection." Yes, that's exactly what I was thinking. That's what I was thinking too. It would be just terrible if you guys let the trailer sit there one more night. The guy cracked a sly smile as I bid him good night. It's late evening here now, and the trailer is still sitting out there. Neighbor is fuming. Oh, yeah. That's up to you, homie. That's up to you. Hey, that's your mistake. You know, you really went out there and thought you were showing them something. Dude, if it's 15 away from it, who cares? Are they doing it? Are they stepping on your grass? You know, are they spitting out gum into your yard? Are they littering it? No, dude, it's a public street. Relax. It's 2 days. Like, what are you going to, God, some people are just so entitled. It's insane. But when you get to a certain place in life, I think all you have like, let's say he owns the house, and let's say, he's retired or something and he's making enough money to not have to do anything. So all he's doing is just kind of guarding his territory. That's like his final job at this man at this age or whatever, that's all he's thinking about. It's just the only thing I have left is to really kind of protect my house. Anything different is bad. Different things are bad. That's what's happening with these people. They think anything that is different or new or changing, that's what happens when you get older, man. And I think there's a part of it that is biologically, it makes sense, because like if a new guy comes to town and he's like, he could be a threat to your tribe, like if we're thinking of us as a human species in the Cro-Magnon era or whatever, like sometimes change is justifiably scary. And I think that little nugget of whatever remnant our ancestors left us is still in us. And it gets a little louder and a little more clear as we age. If we don't actively seek out change and new experiences, we can all become this guy. I'm telling you, we can all become this guy. Unless you purposefully make yourself go outside, talk to more people, interact with more strangers, get used to being in new environments and new situations. Unless you do that, you are at risk. I am at risk of becoming this guy. We're all at risk. We can laugh, haha, at this guy, but we're all at risk of becoming this guy. I'm really locking in on this. I'm saying this preventatively, okay? I don't want more of this guy out there. I'm saying just watch yourself. Be cautious of yourself. Try to have some more new experiences so that way you're not so isolated that you think this is appropriate behavior of yelling at people doing their freaking job and being weirdly possessive over your strip of public road. I live in LA and that cannot exist here. All the streets are to park on. This isn't like some suburban area. Whatever, dude. Anyway, top comment here says, make sure you wave at him if you see his walk of shame to move the cans. That's pretty good. I like that. Also, it's so inconvenient when the trash people miss garbage day. You know, you're like, what do I do with all my trash? You just kind of have to pile it around your garbage bins. You feel like a loser. Yeah, I get that. It's going to be so funny. Nothing he can do, which has to twist his panties. That's gotta sting. When are you gonna move that big ugly thing in front of my house? Aren't you leaving now? Boom! Bazinga! 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 This song sucks. I can't even pretend to do that. I'm sorry, guys. I got to give up on that song. That song just kind of really rubbed me the wrong way. So we're just gonna do an outro with the normal music. Okay. All right. Bye bye.